Hi friends! Over the next couple of videos, I want to walk through how you can set up a goal for yourself and break it down into steps so that it's really easy for you to follow, but it's also a goal and a plan to reach that goal that's tailor-made for you. I'm going to be following a model that comes from 3 Big Questions for the Frantic family, and in it, the idea is that you boil down your goals into a rallying cry. You pick just one. The premise of the book is that it takes courage to choose just one thing to work on at a time, but you're gonna be a lot more effective because you're not rowing in a bunch of different directions. You're not trying to prioritize all of these things at once. You have one singular focus that you're working on. You also have the things that you're working on normally. They call those your standard objectives, the things that you just have to do in order to keep living the life that you're living. But in order to start making progress in an area, you're picking just one thing and you're setting up some defining objectives on how you're gonna reach that. So ignoring all those terms, the first place that they encourage you to start with in the book is to look at your values. So I'm gonna be walking you through how you can figure out your values. The book doesn't really go through this, so this is sort of a compilation of my own experience and reading other materials that have kind of helped me figure out, okay, here's how you can maybe get to a place of figuring out those values, those things that are important in your life and that are gonna help shape the goal that you choose and how you map out a plan to reach that goal. So it's similar to what we talked about last time, where we're looking at the things that you gravitate towards, the things that come more naturally to you. You're gonna wanna set up a system around those, right? But you're also gonna wanna set up a goal that gravitates towards the things that are important to you. You don't wanna pick a goal just because it sounds good for somebody else. You wanna pick a goal because it's gonna actually help you become better at who you are, right? And we've talked about this before. We looked at like scorecards and different ideas. Hopefully this exercise itself though, looking at what you value, is gonna really help you solidify the types of goals that you wanna be pursuing. So in this video, what I wanna ask you is, what are the kinds of situations that you gravitate towards? What are the things that you get pulled into doing or that people are always asking you to do? Maybe it's caregiving. Maybe it's mitigating situations, right? We've got a problem, can you come in and help resolve this issue between 2 parties? Maybe it's wheeling and dealing. You're really good at getting a deal, and so if someone's buying a used car, they call you up and they say, hey, could you come and help me make this deal? Maybe it's anything that has to do with physical activity. You're signing up for marathons, or people are asking you to come and get involved with them in some sort of physical activity, moving or participating in a sport with them. Maybe it's some sort of like social obligation. So there's a potluck at church, you're there, you're on it, you're participating, or they can count on you. Can you help us? We need a volunteer for this event. Could you come and be there? Maybe it's anything to do with research or mental exertion. So if somebody says, hey, I've got this problem, or I've got this thing going on, and you're like, hey, I could look into that for you. And you're there, you're doing the research, right? You're drawn to that. Maybe it's a thing that gets you sidetracked. You're working away and suddenly you're thinking, I wonder, and you're off on a Google search figuring out this thing. Maybe it's proofreading or testing. So people say, hey, I need to run this idea by you, or hey, could you take a look at my paper and see if I've made any errors? Or you're constantly catching yourself proofreading or finding the holes in things. If those are things that you're good at, then it's likely that there is some sort of value that's associated with that thing, because it's important enough to you that you either get pulled away to do it, or you're so good at it that people are asking you to help with it. Now, what you might find is that people are asking you about something because you have a skill in it. You have a hard time saying no, but when you land on the value, the thing that's actually driving you behind it, you'll probably realize that's why certain asks are harder for me than other ones, even though they seem really similar. It's because the underlying value isn't there for you. And I'll explain what I mean in just a second. So if you get pulled into caregiving, right? Someone needs help, or you know that the neighbor down the street's been sick for a while, so you're bringing them soup, you're checking in on them to see how they're doing, then maybe you value support. You value being there for others to support them. You probably find that value in other areas of your life. Giving support or having people support you is really important. If you get called in to mitigate situations, then maybe you value reconciliation or restoration, and you probably have a gift in that area, but it's probably also something that's important to you. If it's wheeling and dealing, then maybe you value success or ambition or coming out on top, right? Coming out with a winning situation. If it's physical activity, then maybe on the one hand you you place importance on adventure, experience, right? Getting out there and doing the thing. It could also be a value of health, that keeping your body fit is important to you, and that's why you sign up for the marathon and push yourself to do these things, because you want to stay healthy and have a healthy lifestyle. If it's the social obligation, so volunteering for things or signing up to do your part, then maybe you value involvement or connection or responsibility. So you're going to have to kind of look at the why behind what you're doing. If it's research, mental exertion, then maybe you value intellect. So you really value having knowledge about things. Maybe it's that you value expertise, even if that research is to the level of, because I need to know all about the topic. If you are finding yourself in situations where you're doing a lot of proofreading or people are asking you to test things, test ideas, maybe you value refinement or accuracy. And maybe you'll notice that there's certain situations where you really enjoy it because it also correlates with that value. So when they're asking you to proofread, they're really asking you for look at the fine details, check the accuracy of each point, and you're like, yes, I love this, because it's actually allowing you to reflect your value of accuracy. But if your value is more towards refinement, then it might not be about the accuracy of the points, but more, how does this look? How does this flow? And you're refining maybe the visual or the perception of the thing, and not so much the accuracy in the data, if that makes sense. So what you might notice is that you get asked to do the same thing, proofread the thing, but the why behind it is different, and so you'll find yourself gravitating more towards one than the other. And in all likelihood, it's because of the value that you have that's supporting the why for the situation. In all likelihood, you also have strengths that are related to these things. So if you're really great at caregiving, maybe you make great soup, but in all likelihood, you're really good at picking up on what people need, right? And you can sense that, and so you're there, and you're also gifted in the ability to deliver in practical ways on those needs. So it might be that you're very observant, you're aware in a sensory way of what the needs are, and then how to address those in practical ways. If you're really good at mitigating situations, then you probably have good relationship skills, communication skills. If you're good with wheeling and dealing, then you probably have skills of persuasion and probably just sort of like an intuitive ability to know what's a good deal and what's not. I know people like that, where they just constantly have this sort of idea or this sense of how much something is worth without even looking at it or doing a lot of research. It's always there in the back of their mind. If you're really good at the physical activity, it might be that you're very self-disciplined. You have a lot of, you can train yourself to do the marathon, and you set these internal challenges for yourself. If you're good with the social obligations or the volunteering, it's probably good. You probably have the skill of figuring out what is needed and how you can address that need in your presence, in your participation, right? And if you value involvement, then that's gonna be really important, is how you get involved, how you show up is really important. If you're good with research and looking into things for people, then you probably have a skill of research, of curiosity, of asking the questions so that you can dig in. And if you're good at proofreading, testing, those kind of things, then it's probably you've got an eye for detail, or You have the ability to even retain facts. So as you're proofreading, you can see the discrepancies between things. So again, it depends on what the value is, what the important thing is behind what you're doing, and you probably have a skill that relates to that. So other skills that relate to these things could be exuding care, that you have the kind of personality that just shows care and concern for others, or you have the ability to take charge in tough situations. Maybe you're really good at planning and executing. So when they're asking you to volunteer and just show up, you might do it but not enjoy it as much as if they ask you to volunteer and plan the baby shower for somebody, because that involves a planning and executing piece that you have a skill in, and that is encompassing your value and putting your skill to use inside of that. So that might really excite you, whereas just being available and showing up is not as exciting for you. So maybe you have the ability to see the big picture or see the possibilities in a situation. So those are all some different skills that could be related to this, and you might see how they influence your excitement or the way that you get involved with these things. So the point of all this is that once you boil it down to 2 or 3 values, as you work through what are these things that I'm usually getting asked to do, certain ones are probably going to keep surfacing to the top. You're going to see them in your relationships, in jobs that you enjoyed, even in conflict that you've had because you held a thing to a higher level of importance than somebody else did. They weren't taking it seriously enough. And so when you can identify that, you'll probably come down to 2 or 3 core values. And these are the things that you stand for, the things that are really important to you, that you have sort of made a piece of your life where you've based decisions around those. And as you identify those, you're obviously going to want a goal then that aligns with those values. And you're going to want a system, a way of reaching your goal that aligns with those values as well. So if you value support, then you probably want to have a system in place that feels really supportive to help you reach your goal. If it's about wheeling and dealing, then you might want to have some sort of incentive for yourself as you're trying to reach your goal. If it's about intellect and you're good at that research piece, and so you value, what it turns out is that you value intellect, then you want to have a goal that's intellectual. You want your goal to be fulfilling that need, that value, that thing of importance, and the way that you're reaching the goal needs to be intellectual. You don't want to go and look at someone else's goal and someone else's method that's very feelings based, that's very motivational and feel good. You're going to want to pick something that's more intellectual. So maybe checking off boxes for you is not the way that you're going to reach your goal. It's going to be potentially debating, hashing out the value of your goal with other people, or just the sheer logic that if I do these things, then this is going to be good for me, and this is why I'm doing it. And you're probably using a secondary value to help support that one. So for me, my values are connection and empowerment. So those 2 things go together. I want to make sure I have a goal that's connecting me with others. A lot of times my goals are about family, about relationships, about my relationship with God. And then the empowerment piece is how I'm doing that. I don't want to do it in a way where it feels very mundane, very someone else is just telling me that this is the way I need to do it. I need to be figuring it out for myself. I need to be hands-on with reaching my goal, and I want to make sure that the other people involved are also feeling empowered or feeling encouraged in the goal and feel like they're contributing a piece of it. So I'll give you more examples of what our family is doing and how we're using the 3 big questions of a Frantic family to help guide our family rallying cry, and how we've set that up so that it includes all of our values and reflects, as we're trying to reach that goal, the things that we value as a family and as a unit, but also the things that we value individually. So I hope this exercise was encouraging for you and insightful. And if you have questions, if you're like, well, here are some of the things that I get called in to do, here are some of the things that I notice I'm good at, but I'm not really sure what the underlying value is, then feel free to put that in the comments. We can talk about it and maybe throw around some ideas. or if you've come up with your values, then stick around, because in the next video we're going to talk about how you can align those values with your goal and the way that you're reaching your goals.